Beloved, have you ever wondered why your prayers for money feel unanswered? Why your asking turns into waiting, and your waiting becomes worry? Let me share a divine truthing. I stopped asking the universe for money and started ordering it. And everything changed, for when you beg, you believe it's far away. But when you command, you claim what's already yours, because your word is your wand, and your spoken decree is law in the invisible realm. And the moment I understood this sacred principle, I stopped wishing for abundance and began directing it with the power of unwavering faith. Just as a captain gives an order to the ship and expects it to be obeyed, I too began to speak with bold authority, and the money that once avoided me started flowing like a mighty river. For when I said, I am rich in all ways, now, the doors of supply swung open, and when I affirmed, I walk in divine wealth, unexpected checks, gifts, and business miracles poured in without strain or effort. Because the universe responds not to fear but to faith, not to desperation but declaration. And I say unto you now, you must not crawl when you were born to command. For the wealth you seek is already around you in unseen form, and it is awaiting the shape of your belief to mold it into form. But how can that happen if your words are filled with worry or lack? I used to say, please help me pay this bill. And the bill would linger, growing larger, heavier, more frightening. But when I stood tall and said, this bill is paid in divine timing by divine channels, something strange and marvelous occurred. Opportunities arose, clients appeared, refunds surfaced, and the bill would disappear like mist under morning light, because the universe delights in obedience to the law of assumption. And when you act rich, think rich, speak rich, you begin to live rich, for poverty is not merely a condition. It is a pattern, and patterns can be rewritten by your tongue, which is a tool of creation more powerful than all the riches of the world. And oh, how different life becomes when you replace the question, how will I afford this, with the statement, I am already provided for. And you'll see the difference not just in your finances, but in your health, your home, your confidence. For the vibration of wealth is a song, and only those in harmony can hear its melody. So I ask you now, are you ready to stop whispering your needs and start proclaiming your provision? For what you fear, you draw near, and what you command, you magnetize. And every time I stood in front of a mirror and declared, large sums of money come to me quickly, easily, and consistently, I noticed not just money, but divine guidance, new connections, and creative ideas that held the golden key to abundance. And the reason I call it ordering and not asking is because there's no power in begging for what's already been assigned to you by divine law. For the storehouse of the universe is never empty. It's our thoughts that build the door or wall. So build the door with your spoken word. For the law does not respond to your desperation. It responds to your vibration. And when you raise your frequency by praising, affirming, and acting as if, you move from lack to plenty, from waiting to receiving. And that's what I did when I stopped hoping and started commanding with gratitude in my heart and power in my voice, saying, this is mine by divine right, under grace, in perfect ways. And let me tell you, miracles followed not because I forced them, but because I allowed them. And I allowed them by knowing the law and trusting it, just like gravity. It does not care whether you understand it or not. It simply works, so work with it, not against it. Speak only what you desire, not what you fear. And you will witness how quickly things turn around, even in the darkest hour. For when I had nothing but faith, it became everything I needed to build the life I dreamed of. And that, dear one, is not a fantasy. It's a law in action, available to you now. And when I fully grasped that asking from a place of need was an admission of lack, I made a sacred decision that would alter the course of my life. I would no longer request as though I were empty. I would declare as though I were full. For the universe does not recognize pleading as power. It responds to the tone of certainty, the rhythm of confidence, the melody of assurance. And so I began each day not with a question of how, but a proclamation of truth. I am now aligned with the infinite source of wealth, and money flows to me in avalanches of abundance. And beloved, it did, because when the soul speaks with authority, the unseen forces obey. For you were not created to bow before your circumstances. You were designed to rise above them, and I tell you with all the truth of my being that the moment you stop saying, I hope it comes, and start saying, it is already mine, you walk in a new world entirely, where the very atoms of the universe rearrange themselves to serve you. For your word is the mold and your faith is the fire that brings it to life. And how many times have we sabotaged our supply by following a thought of doubt with a word of defeat? I once said, I'll never make enough, and I didn't. But when I said, the riches of heaven are flowing through me now, unexpected sources revealed themselves, doors that were locked swung open, and the very people I had once hoped to reach out to me suddenly appeared without any effort of mine, because I had tuned into divine frequency of prosperity, and that frequency has no tolerance for begging, for it is only activated by boldness, by alignment, by the absolute conviction that what you speak shall be so, and I often teach this to my students. Do not ask for what is already yours by divine inheritance, declare it. Demand it with love, expect it with grace, and welcome with joy, for joy is the magnet of all good things, and worry is the repellent of miracles. And every time I caught myself worrying about money, I reminded myself worry is a misuse of the imagination, a rehearsal of failure, and I am not rehearsing failure. I am performing faith, and faith is a performance of the invisible that births the visible. And so I would walk the streets as if wealth walked with me. I would speak my affirmations in the silence of my heart while passing banks and shops, saying quietly to myself, I am now receiving money from expected and unexpected sources, and I am always abundantly supplied. And I felt my entire vibration shift, my shoulders relaxed, my breath deepened, my eyes lit up, because the energy of money had heard the call of my belief and had responded in kind. And beloved, money is not a thing to be chased. It is a reflection of the mental atmosphere you create, and I ask you now, what atmosphere are you living in? One of struggle and grasping, or one of grace and declaring? You must choose, and when you choose, do so with all your heart, for a wavering mind cannot manifest unwavering supply. And when I chose to order instead of ask, I began to live like a queen, not in palaces or gold, but in assurance, in steadiness, in the calm knowing that I am cared for by an unseen hand, and that hand is moved not by my cries but by my confidence. And I say this with love. Every time you repeat the story of not having enough, you renew the very condition you wish to be free of. So speak only of abundance, even in lack, and watch how the shadows begin to scatter, because the law does not wait. It responds immediately to your dominant thought clothed in the power of your word. And what is your dominant thought? Is it faith or fear, trust or trouble, love or lack? Align it with what you desire, and your life will align with that vibration, and that is not fantasy. It is divine law, unchanging, unbending, available to all, and yet accessed only by those who dare to believe before they see. And I tell you, the moment I spoke with certainty and thanked the universe as if the money were already in my hands, I began to receive in ways I never could have plotted or planned, for the supply always existed. It was my belief that turned the key, and in the same way, you too can unlock the treasury of heaven not with anxious asking but with reverent commanding, for the word, command, is not a demand on others. It is a release of doubt from yourself. It is a signal to the universe that you know your place. And your place is not beneath lack, it is above it, for you are a divine being, and divine beings do not beg. They radiate, they declare, they co-create with Source. And I remind you now, gently but firmly, to stop shrinking when it's time to expand, for you are not here to survive. You are here to thrive, and your thriving begins the moment you realize that money is not an enemy, nor is it a test. It is a tool, a servant, a vehicle, and you are the master when you master your mind. So speak riches and walk like you mean it. Affirm wealth and dress like you feel it. Act in faith and let the form follow. Because it always does, it must, it's law, and when the law is known and loved, it begins to serve you effortlessly, just as it has served me. And you will never again need to ask for what you have already claimed in consciousness. For once you speak it as truth, the universe begins its sacred work to bring it into form. And so, as I walked deeper into this awareness, that wealth is not something earned through exhaustion, but something summoned through the confident word, I began to notice how many people around me were still caught in the illusion of separation from supply, living in a fog of belief that said money was hard to come by, that success required sacrifice, that provision was for the lucky or the chosen few. But I say unto you, none of this is true, for we are all heirs to the kingdom of abundance. And it is not the universe that withholds. It is our subconscious patterns, our outdated declarations, our timid affirmations, and the moment you dare to rewire your words, your entire world begins to shift, and you may say, Florence, how can I speak abundance when my pockets are empty, when my bills are piling, when the calls from creditors are coming in? And I will answer you plainly, that you do not speak from the facts. You speak from the truth, and the truth is this: there is a place within you untouched by debt, untainted by worry, where the riches of the infinite reside, and you must speak from that sacred place. For what you decree from the spirit must take form in the material, and I know this because I have lived it. I have walked through moments of lack, only to emerge triumphant through the spoken word of power, not by asking over and over again, not by pleading with the universe, but by commanding with clarity, by affirming with faith. And when I said, I do not chase money, I magnetize it by the vibration of my joy. It came, not all at once, but in beautiful waves. Little miracles at first, a refund I forgot about, a client from years ago returning, a stranger gifting something unexpected, and then larger blessings followed. Investments, opportunities, contracts, and beloved. It wasn't magic, though it felt magical. It was law, divine law, the kind that cannot be broken, only obeyed or ignored. And when you live in obedience to this higher law, you transcend the rules of lack and competition that society teaches you. You stop believing in the lie that there is not enough to go around, and instead you tune into the infinite reservoir that lives in and all around you. A reservoir that overflows when you speak in alignment with your truth, for the truth is, you are already wealthy, already worthy, already capable, already connected, but you must activate that knowing with your words, and your words must be rich, not poor, must be certain, not doubtful, must be joyful, not heavy, because your words are the seeds, and your life is the harvest, and many are planting thorns while praying for roses. But you, dear one, can choose differently, as I did, for I began to plant declarations that lifted me, inspired me, fueled me with courage, such as, every dollar I spend comes back to me multiplied, or money flows to me like a golden river, unrestricted and joyous. And these weren't empty chants. They were codes, formulas, vibrations that reprogrammed the cells of my mind and body to expect good. And what you expect, you receive. For expectation is the blueprint of manifestation. And I knew that when I started ordering the universe instead of questioning it, everything became simpler, clearer, more fluid. And I want you to feel this simplicity too. I want you to know how light it feels to stop chasing and start choosing. For when you order from a menu at a restaurant, you don't plead with the waiter. You don't beg him to bring your food. You simply choose. You say it clearly. And you wait in joyful expectation, knowing it is being prepared behind the scenes. And so it is with the universe. You must choose boldly, speak it clearly, and then rest in faith, knowing it is on its way. And while you wait, do not pace with worry. Rejoice with trust. Do not look at your bank account with dread. Look at it with love, even if the numbers are low, for that love will raise the frequency of your finances. And every time you bless your wallet, your purse, your account, every time you look at money and say, you are welcome here, you are loved here, you shift from rejection to invitation, and the universe hears that shift, for it always mirrors your tone, your vibration, your attitude. And you might wonder, but Florence, is it truly that easy? And I say yes. Not easy because it happens overnight, but easy because it is natural. It is your birthright to live and flow with supply, and yet you must unlearn what the world has taught you. You must unlearn the struggle, the guilt, the shame tied to money, and replace it with a sacred respect, a joyful expectation, a divine detachment, where you do not worship money but neither do you fear it. You walk with it, side by side, as a tool, not a master. And this is the wisdom the ancients knew, that the outer reflects the inner. And your wealth is not something out there to grab. It is something in here to remember, to activate, and the activation begins with your word. And so I began saying, I am now linked to the supply of heaven, and it rushes to me without delay. And I watched as not only money but also peace arrived, clarity, health, aligned relationships. Because lack in one area is often mirrored in others, and when you heal your money story, you heal your self-worth, your confidence, your openness to receive in every form. And it is this openness that brings miracles, because a closed heart cannot receive, but an open heart, aligned with the law of command, becomes the gateway for endless blessings. And I want you to remember this, you were never meant to struggle to manifest. It's not about working harder or saying the affirmation 500 times a day. It's about feeling it deeply, speaking it with joy, believing it without resistance, and letting go of the timeline, trusting the process, and walking in the vibration of already having it. For the law is impartial. It does not give to the deserving, it gives to the believing. And you become a believer by declaring until it feels natural, until it feels like home. And that's what I did. I spoke it so often that abundance became my default, wealth became my resting place, prosperity became my expectation, not my exception. And that is available to you now, no matter your past, no matter your bank balance, no matter your history. For the law does not discriminate. It simply mirrors your inner world, and when your inner world is rich, the outer must comply. And I invite you now, not to try harder, but to relax deeper, to trust more fully, to speak more clearly, and to love more consistently, for love is the highest frequency of receiving, And when you love the process, love your journey, love yourself, money will love you too. Because money, like everything else in the universe, is energy, and energy goes where it is welcomed. And so I say, again and again, I stopped asking for money. I started ordering it. Because asking says, I don't have. And ordering says, it's already mine. And that simple shift changed my life forever. And it will change yours too. If you are willing to speak from the truth, not the facts, from the soul, not fear, from the vision, not the memory, and in doing so, you will walk a new path, where the laws of man fall away and the laws of spirit guide your every step toward prosperity, peace, and purpose. And now that you know how the law responds to your word, you must become ever more conscious of the words you speak. Not just the bold declarations made during your morning rituals, but the soft whispers of worry spoken in your idle thoughts, the casual phrases passed in conversation, the invisible yet powerful affirmations buried within your complaints. For all of it is creation, all of it is declaration. And the universe listens not only to what you say on purpose but to what you say in passing. And I say this with love, because I once believed that my affirmations alone would bring abundance, yet I continued to tell friends, money is tight. Or to think quietly, I don't know how I'll pay this. And in those fleeting phrases, I canceled out the very declarations I had made with such faith, and so I had to cleanse my language completely, to become a vigilant guardian of my spoken word. And every time I caught myself saying something that did not align with my new wealthy identity, I gently corrected myself, not with guilt but with grace, saying, no, that's not my truth anymore. And I would replace it with something better, something richer, something true, such as, everything I need is already on its way. Or, I live under grace and in perfect financial security. And in doing so, I taught my subconscious mind a new script, a new song, and my reality began to sing along, because repetition is the tool that impresses the subconscious, and the subconscious is the channel through which all manifestations come to pass. So you must speak it until you believe it. Believe it until you feel it until you know it, and once you know it, it is done. And this is why I say, stop asking, start ordering. Not once, not twice, but as often as needed until your inner world reflects no doubt, only certainty. And you must treat your affirmations not as wishes, but as sacred decrees, declarations that carry the full force of spiritual law behind them. For the law is always listening, always recording, always responding to your energetic signature. And your words shape that signature more than anything else. And I found that when I paired my commanding words with vivid imagination, the results came faster, fuller, and with more joy. So I would close my eyes and see the money arriving, sometimes in envelopes, sometimes in online payments, sometimes handed to me with love, and I would feel the excitement, the gratitude, the freedom of that moment. And then I would say out loud, it is done, thank you, thank you, thank you. And that combination, spoken command and felt emotion, was like lightning and thunder, activating the heavens in my favor. And soon I didn't just receive more money, I received better ideas, more creative thoughts, nudges of intuition that led me to people, places, and plans that turned into streams of income. And each time, I laughed with delight, not because I was surprised, but because I was grateful, for I knew the law was working. I knew I had finally aligned my consciousness with the truth of abundance, and once aligned, you no longer live in fear of loss, because you know the source of supply is within you, never outside, and no one can take it away, no condition can dry it up, no economy can control it, for it is eternal, and it flows to you in proportion to your willingness to claim it, not from arrogance, but from spiritual authority. And I say now, as I've said before, claim your good. Do not delay it by waiting for permission, by doubting your worth, by wondering if you're ready, for the very act of claiming is what makes you ready. And money is but one aspect of your divine inheritance, but it is the one that so many struggle with, because they believe that to desire money is to be materialistic. But I tell you, to desire money for the good it can do is to be practical and spiritually wise. For money builds schools, feeds families, funds visions, and sustains peace when it is placed in loving, conscious hands. And when you order it into your life from a space of service and joy, it multiplies. Because the universe trusts those who treat money as sacred circulation rather than stagnant hoarding. And I always declared, I am a faithful steward of wealth, and it flows to me with ease and multiplies through me with grace. And in doing so, I released the guilt that once blocked my flow. And many people unconsciously block their abundance not because they don't desire it, but because they fear it, fear responsibility, fear judgment, fear failure. But none of that is real. It is illusion dressed as logic. And the moment you confront those fears with truth, They dissolve like fog under sunlight. And the truth is, you were born for more, and that more is available the moment you open your arms, open your heart, and open your mouth to speak it into being. And that is why the law is so generous, because it knows no resistance except the one you impose upon it. So remove the resistance, remove the fear, remove the doubt, and step into your role as a co-creator with infinite intelligence. And know that money is the effect, not the cause. The cause is your consciousness, your word, your belief. And when you stop trying to manipulate the effect and instead transform the cause, everything changes. And I say this with absolute certainty. I never worked harder for more money. I worked lighter, with more faith, more fun, more alignment. And the money came because it was invited, not demanded. And there's a difference between demanding with desperation and ordering with dignity. And you must always remember this distinction. For the energy you emit becomes the experience you attract. And you can shift your energy now, simply by shifting your words, by waking up tomorrow and saying, "This is a rich day, full of divine surprises, overflowing with money magic and miracles." And then walking through your life as if that were already true. Because when your actions match your affirmations, manifestation is inevitable. And I remember once I had no idea how I would pay rent, and the old me wanted to panic, to ask, to plead, but the new me stood tall, lit a candle, and declared, "This rent is paid in full, on time, through expected and unexpected channels, and I rejoice in the perfect outcome." And I went about my day without worry, and before the week ended, a past student mailed me a check with a note saying, "I felt led to give this to you." And the amount was exactly what I needed, not a cent more or less, and that is not coincidence. It is confirmation that the universe is always listening, always responding, and it loves to show you how easy it can be when you trust, when you align, when you stop negotiating with doubt and start operating in certainty. And so I say again, stop asking for money. Start ordering it, and not just once, but as a habit, a lifestyle, a language of wealth. For when your language changes, your life changes. And when your life changes, the world around you reflects that change in beautiful and surprising ways. And I invite you now to imagine the version of you who no longer doubts, who no longer waits, who no longer hesitates to speak boldly, to declare richly, to receive fully. What would they say? What would they wear? How would they walk? How would they treat money? Begin to embody that self today, now in this very moment, not next week, not when the money arrives, but now, for this is how the law works. It mirrors the now, not the later. It gives you more of what you are being, not what you are waiting to become. And when you be the wealthy self now, speak as that self now, act as that self now, you collapse the timeline between desire and manifestation, and what you once thought would take years arrives in weeks, in days, in hours, because there is no time in the spirit, only alignment, and alignment begins with command. So command, beloved, command your good, speak your wealth, rejoice in your prosperity, and know that the moment you do, the law moves on your behalf, because it must, it always has, and it always will. And now, dearest one, if your soul has been stirred, if something deep within you is nodding in agreement, if the words I have spoken have awakened a knowing that has always lived in you, but was perhaps buried under years of worry, fear, or disappointment, then know this: it is not by accident that these words have found you. It is by divine appointment, because the law never misses, the timing of truth is always perfect, and you were meant to hear this now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but now, because this is the moment of your awakening, the moment where you no longer live as the one who waits, but as the one who commands, where you no longer shrink in fear of bills or lack or rejection, but where you rise up and speak life into your money story, where you take the pen and write a new chapter, not with hesitation, but with holy fire in your voice, where you replace, "Can I afford it?" with, "I am already provided for," where you retire the worn-out phrases of lack and instead rip yourself in affirmations so rich, so bold, so charged with divine confidence, that even your shadow begins to glow, and yes, beloved, even your doubts will fade. Because the light of a single truth spoken in faith will always burn brighter than years of fear, and that is what this journey has been about. Returning you to the truth that you are not a victim of your circumstances, you are a sculptor of them, with words as your chisel and belief as your hand, carving out a life of beauty, joy, and unshakable wealth. And I do not speak of mere dollars and coins, but of the wealth of certainty, the richness of inner peace, the treasure of knowing who you are and what you deserve. And when you speak from that knowing, the world bends in your favor, not because it pities you, but because it recognizes your power. And that power is not something you have to earn. It's something you already possess, waiting only to be activated by your voice, your word, your decision. And so I ask you now, what are you deciding today? Are you choosing to stay in the loop of asking and waiting, hoping and fearing? Or are you ready to step boldly into the life where you command with clarity and trust the law to fulfill it, just as it has always fulfilled every true command ever spoken? And you might say, but Florence, I've tried and failed. And I will say to you, you did not fail. You simply rehearsed the lesson, and now you are ready to pass the test, to graduate from asking to declaring, from hoping to knowing, from lack to limitless supply. And you do this not by force, not by frantic action, but by a steady, calm alignment with the divine law that governs all things, the law that says, as you speak, so shall it be. And now, more than ever, your words must be chosen as jewels, wrapped in love, and delivered with the certainty of royalty. For you are not a beggar. You are a queen, a king, a vessel of divine intelligence, a magnet of prosperity. And when you rise in the morning and speak, let your words be rooted in faith, not fear, for fear only recycles the past, but faith opens portals to futures brighter than your imagination. And it was when I began to rise and say, everything I touch prospers, and everything I need is already on its way, that I began to witness miracles as my daily bread. And this is not a gift for the few. It is a promise for all who dare to believe and speak as if it were already done. And if I could place one last truth in your heart, it would be this: the universe responds to you not because you are loud, or good, or perfect. It responds to you because you are aligned, because you speak from truth, because you know who you are and what you deserve. And so speak now, not as one who wishes, but as one who knows, not as one who waits, but as one who calls forth. And if ever you feel doubt, return to your declarations, not once or twice, but until your voice becomes the voice of faith itself. For repetition is the bridge between belief and reality. And every time you affirm, you are building a bridge to your abundance. And one day you will stand on that bridge. Look back and realize that every affirmation, every correction of a negative word, every time you chose to say, I am wealthy now, instead of, I can't afford it, all of it added up to a complete transformation, a rebirth, a renewal. And that your money story was never about numbers. It was always about worth, about power, about speaking from your spiritual identity, and not your temporary circumstances. And when you live this truth, you become unshakable, unstoppable, magnetic, and you begin to walk with the frequency of royalty, of wholeness, of ease. And then, and only then, will money chase you, love find you, peace clothe you, and miracles make a home in your life. And so I end with the same energy with which I began. I stopped asking the universe for money, and I started ordering it, because I remembered who I was. I remembered the law. I remembered that my word is my wand. And with that wand I write the story of abundance, joy, service, and freedom. And now it is your turn, your moment, your divine appointment to speak your good into existence. So take a breath, lift your head, straighten your back, and speak it now, for the universe is listening, and it is ready to obey.